G'day, battlers, and today we are jumping in for another Naiad Cup tournament recap, this time from the world number 3, the US number 1, flyingpizza1, who just landed a 5-0 sweep in my Naiad Cup tournament this weekend just gone. And I mean, Discord link in the description down below if you want for future tournaments just like this one, but Flying Pizza just flying away with that 5-0 with a really interesting strategy that I'm pretty excited to be able to get a look at and also share with you, being a double dragon strategy. We'll get into that, but first let's just jump in and take a look at the team down in the bottom right hand corner. Flying Pizza is going to be running Mew with my favorite Naiad Cup moveset of Dragon Claw Wild Charge with the Shadow Claw fast move. I feel like you don't need to specify that because Shadow Claw is just like what Mew always runs, but charge move wise it is Wild Charge Dragon Claw. Now Hakamo'o is coming in here instead of Komo'o. Komo'o I think is ranked higher on the PvPoke rankings, but Flying Pizza did some test battles with both and sort of found a little bit more consistency with Hakamo'o, and hopefully I know for a fact that we're going to see it do some good things in this video. Now Hakamo'o runs Dragon Tail as a fast move and then Dragon Claw Brick Break as charge move. So really quick, Brick Break giving it a lot of coverage for those normal types, for the ice types running around to give a little bit of counter damage. And something really interesting about Hakamo'o is it is a lot bulkier than you would sort of expect. It's a dragon fighting type, I believe, and it takes like half of its health from an Icicle Spear from Walrein, which is like, when you just think of dragons, you're like, they're not supposed to take ice moves very well, but being able to just like body an Icicle Spear like pretty solidly, a lot of respect from me for sure. And also, you've got Brick Break. It doesn't do a lot of damage back, but just to give like some sort of indication, because I was doing some like PvPoke sims with Hakamo'o, it's got like the same defense stat as a Zoomerl, just to give like some sort of semblance of where its bulk's at. It's pretty sick. HP isn't as good, but yeah, the defense is really up there. Flying Pizza is also going to be running Greedent with Tackle as the fast move instead of Bullet Seed, and then the Body Slam Crunch moveset as well. Altaria, classic moveset. Galvantula, classic moveset. Walrein, classic moveset as well, but Flying Pizza, I believe, doesn't use the Walrein in any of the battles. Like, I sort of clicked through and just like to get all the movesets, and Flying Pizza mentioned that Walrein doesn't make an appearance. So pretty sure we're not going to see Walrein, and it's kind of just going to be the bench pressure. Now, before we sort of dive into the strategy, let's take a look at Diorosaur. I don't know how to say your name. I'm really Diorosaur. We've got Altaria, Galvantula, Snorlax, Walrein, Greedent, and Mew. So overall, a pretty similar team, except not running the double dragon strategy. Instead, bringing in that Snorlax instead of Hakamo'o. So also a very bulky Pokemon, a bit more on the HP side, and has some play against each other. But let's get into this battle. So what Flying Pizza told me was for game 1, every round, double dragon, ABB. So we're going to see in this very first game, we're going to see Greedent. I'm not sure if it's Greedent every first game or if they swap out the first Pokemon. We'll see as we sort of go. But it's Greedent and then with Hakamo'o and Altaria in the back. So let's jump into this very first round battle to sort of see this strategy in action for the game 1. Now we've got Greedent Mirror Match. So at this point, you kind of want to bait out that Walrein. So we're going to see a swap out into that Hakamo'o. Here comes the Walrein, and already getting a little bit of energy on the Hakamo'o. So able to get these Brick Breaks off, they're going to do a nice chunk of damage to the Walrein. Actually gets the shield there. I mean, I say a nice chunk. It does an okay amount. But now we're going to see the Icicle Spear land, and we're above 50% health. So able to tank it, which is just wild to me. But still, able to hang on and get another Brick Break off. Diorosaur is going to let this one come through. And yeah, see, like it does an okay amount of damage, but you're definitely not going to be beating down the Walrein with the Hakamo'o. So swapping in the Hakamo'o, Walrein's been baited out. We're now seeing the Greedent come in here, who is going to be able to just fast move all the way down and have a chunk of energy for whatever is in the back as well. And Diorosaur doesn't really have like a hard counter for Greedent, so there wasn't anything that's going to be too much of a worry. I mean, there isn't really a hard counter for Greedent in the entire meta, maybe a Scavalier, but we've got the Body Slam. It's coming off now. We've got Tackle, they've got Bullet Seed, so Flying Pizza is doing a little bit more fast move damage, whereas Diorosaur is getting a bit more energy, gets to the charge moves a bit quicker, but banking up the charge move before swapping into Altaria. Altaria is actually a really good Greedent counter, able to just do a really good job of soaking up all of this energy. Really good play from Diorosaur going for the Crunch, because when you're in this spot, you kind of just want to get that Crunch debuff off, but unfortunately didn't get it on the first one. Actually just goes to the Body Slam this time, but did get the shield nonetheless out of Flying Pizza. Now in comes the Shadow Snorlax. I feel like Shadows. I mean, shadows are allowed, but I don't think they've ticked the shadow box. But I guess it's supposed to be a shadow Snorlax there on the registration. Regardless, though, these Dragon Breaths are definitely going to be adding up. Still a shield on the opposing side, so kind of just has to go for a full fast move down at this point. I think Altaria should be able to tank this Body Slam, and then we'll just be able to Dragon Breath down. 1 HP and a Dream, throws the Moon Blast just for good measure. Gonna burn that last shield off of that Greedent, and now Flying Pizza, that one charge move they had ready to go on their Greedent, is coming out again with barely an HP, able to come through and get the Body Slam. So absolutely huge, and really showing off how good that strategy sort of works with baiting out the Walrein and then playing down with the Altaria farm down in the back. Just Altaria working as that really strong closing Pokemon, again, without many counters. And, you know, most teams are only running that sort of one ice Pokemon max, whether it's Walrein or Lapras. Some don't have any. I'm pretty sure, my team had a Walrein on it. A lot of teams actually don't have any. So it really lets Dragons just run even wilder. I think the fact that Double Dragon is so strong is going to mean that ice types come out a little bit more. But regardless, going into game 2, we're going to see a swap away from the strategy to a BAB strategy. So we've got Hakamo in the lead, and then we've got Greedent and Galvantula in the back. So we're seeing the swap out into Mew. We're getting up to the charge move just for a little bit later. This is a really good strategy from Flying Pizza 1, as we saw in the very first game. Those charge moves can really come back to help. An interesting reveal that the opponent's got Thunderbolt on their Mew. Also interesting throwing it against the Greedent. I feel like Thunderbolt probably isn't the most efficient move that they've got, but I don't know what their second move is. Hopefully we can find out a little bit later. But regardless, we've got the Snorlax coming back in here. I feel like most Snorlaxes in this meta are going to be running Body Slam Superpower, so it definitely is going to be able to put on a lot of hurt to this Greedent if the Superpower does end up landing. But Flying Pizza able to land 2 Body Slams here before Snorlax gets anything off. Doesn't need to shield, but Snorlax deciding to shield. Oh, just keeping all of the energy there. And we're seeing a double swap into Hakamo and, unfortunately, Walrein. Would have been really nice to get a Brick Break off there instead, but not the end of the world for sure. And look how much damage the Dragon Tails are doing, actually. It's seriously adding up on the Walrein here. But there's the Brick Break, gets the shield as well. And unfortunately, Diorosaur is not going to be able to go for a farm down. Has to throw an Icicle Spear at some point to be able to take this Hakamo out. So just a really strong Pokemon. Now, Flying Pizza making the reveal here that they've actually brought Galvantula, not Double Dragon this time, as I feel like Diorosaur was potentially expecting. And now in a really strong spot here, where an Icicle Spear is going to hurt, but Galvantula will be able to tank it and then have all of this energy to throw against that Snorlax in the back, where Galvantula was going to win CMP up against that Snorlax. So really well played, and still having that Greedent packing in the back as well. Now, game 3, already won round 1, but going in for the third game regardless. We've got Greedent versus Greedent coming back. Bullet Seed, we see the swap out into Hakamo. We've returned to the ABB strategy, but this time, Diorosaur is staying in with the Greedent. Wants to try and get a defense debuff onto this Hakamo. Unfortunately, didn't happen, and here comes the Altaria. Now, this is sort of the other way you can try and counter the dragons without Walrein, is going in for the just dragon neutral back and forth damage, but so much energy on Flying Pizza's side really puts the hurt onto this Altaria. So the second Dragon Claw coming through lets Altaria go. We'll see what comes in the back here. It is actually going to be the Greedent coming back. Now, Bullet Seed obviously not doing a lot of damage here as opposed to tackle, so going to have to go for a charge move at some point. Hakamo getting the shield there, the very first shield actually in this game entirely, getting a bit more energy and then throwing the Body Slam finally to take this Hakamo. Oh, goes for the crunch. Was potentially, or must have been expecting the shield to come up. And then trying to get a defense debuff potentially. But no, has the Double Dragon in the back. So Altaria happily able to come out here. Is just going to be able to Dragon Breath all the way down. Tank all these charge moves. No stress whatsoever. And then whatever comes out in the back is not going to be too much of a concern. Because we've still got 2 shields. And it's actually Galvantula. So Galvantula doing neutral damage because Dragon resists electric. And flying obviously takes super effective. But that one Sky Attack just does so much damage. And even catches the move onto Greedent just for good measure. Really, really just clean plays from Flying Pizza here in this very first round. There is not much that Diorosaur can do. And here comes Greedent. Just going to go for the 2 shield flex as well. And this is going to land, and then one more fast move is going to land that Greedent to the Shadow Realm. So really GG's there, and showing off the power of that ABB Double Dragon line. excuse me, didn't actually bring the Warraint in that third game, was potentially expecting that the double dragon strat might be done for, but yeah, did come back in with it, and without a solid counter, just really ran away with the competition, quite frankly. Altaria being, again, that really good closer. Now, we've got onto round 2 now, so boom, boom, and we've got Captain Shook 911, who is running Mew, Altaria, Jellicent, Trash Wormadam, Escavalier, and Greedent. So I actually faced Captain Shook yesterday as well, I believe, and is running the double bug steal with Trash Wormadam and Escavalier. Jellicent is a really interesting one and does provide the double dragon line with a little bit of a scare, because in this meta, generally they're going to be running Ice Beam Shadow Ball for the most part, where Ice Beam, obviously acts as that threat towards the dragons, where the dragons aren't doing too much super effective damage back. So not going to be too surprised to see some Jellicent action going on in this one. But again, let's just jump in for that ABB strategy in round 1 and see what actually happens here, whether that Jellicent... Oh, we're actually not gone for ABB. We've gone for the Hakamoa in the lead. We've got Mew and Altaria in the back. So all three able to do some dragon damage, but we're seeing a swap out into Mew. Now, Flying Pizza actually mentioned to me that they didn't realize that Trash Wormadam could learn Bug Bite. Surprise, this is not where Mew wants to be at all, unfortunately. But, these are always learning exercises. And I didn't even mention at the start, Flying Pizza is incredibly new to the Silph arena and it's just like rocketed up. I'll talk about it a little bit more later, but Flying Pizza, truly an incredible battler from the get-go. Now, I've got the Altaria mirror going on here. Burning the shield because we kind of want to keep this around and get our energy off onto that Altaria. Farms a little bit more and then goes for the Sky Attack now. Always that looming threat of maybe it's the Moonblast. Does get the shield there and then a swap out into Hakamoa. Yeah, we can't get the full farm down here, so going to burn another shield on this dragon, protecting both dragons at all costs. But one more Dragon Tail and down goes Altaria. And then I feel like we're probably going to see, it's double bug steal going on. So we've got Escavalier coming in. This Brick Break, unfortunately, it's not like the best because obviously it's neutral damage because there is the steel typing that is super effective and the bug typing that resists it, but does a nice chunk of damage because the Escavalier is so squishy. So just going to sort of bring down the health a little bit, hope that Altaria can maybe like tank all of these moves, but it looks like it's going to be a bit of a rough one. Really set on by the fact that he did swap in that Mew into the Bug Bite Wormadam, but now has the knowledge, knows that that is not the way to go, and we are finally seeing the Jellicent action coming out up against that Altaria. Now we see the swap out into Galvantula. In comes the Greedent here, which not the end of the world. Like, obviously, Galvantula is a pretty squishy Pokemon, so it does take a lot of damage from these body slams and the crunches, but Galvantula gets these charge moves off and can really just whittle down the attack stat on that Greedent and can do a pretty good job of sort of leaving this matchup with energy as well. So he's gone for the back-to-backsies, lunge, and then the discharge to do the big damage. Does actually get a shield out of that one, so we're going to see a charge move come through from Greedent. Galvantula can tank this, though, so not too bad, and the attack debuff doesn't hurt either. Well, it makes it hurt less, I suppose, is what I sort of mean. Now, I'm going to burn the shield here and I think we can keep farming a little bit more energy on this Greedent. Ooh, can we get no, unfortunately, cannot get the full farm down. It would have been really nice there, but not quite possible. Oh my gosh, and surviving with the body slam all because of that lunge attack debuff. So important to have gotten that attack debuff or this Galvantula would not be here. Goes for the discharge, which is a little unfortunate because lunge would have been super effective against Mew and would have got that attack debuff, but either way, we've got Altaria coming in here, charging up a lot of energy, and we see the swap out into Greedent and a much better spot up against Jellicent than the Altaria would have been because we do have access to that crunch, and using the Ice Beam, which does suggest that they probably don't have Bubble Beam, because I feel like you would want to reduce your attack a little bit on the first move and then go for the Ice Beams, just because there aren't any shields potentially. All they just want to do is maximum damage as possible. But again, as I said before, most Jellicents in this meta seem to be running Ice Beam, Shadow Ball. So we can probably safely assume that they don't have Bubble Beam. Now, farming up a ton of energy here, Flying Pizza, doing the counts, knowing where the opponent's at, and throwing the crunch before a move can come through. Takes down the Jellicent. Not going to be able to get another move off on the Greedent, but we know that Altaria is just sitting back there with energy ready to go. And interestingly, running the Rock Slide moveset. I sort of feel like Dragon Claw Wild Charge is sort of the better way to go, personally. But yeah, that Moonblast does a ton of damage, and down goes the Cap'n in game 2 there. So 1-1 going into game 3, and we have the Mew going into the Altaria, now with the double dragon in the back. So maybe I lied earlier about it always being game 1. We've got the Dragon Claw and Wild Charge ready to go. Dragon Claw going to be the way to fire up against this Altaria, because that's where you're getting your super effective damage. Not the best counter, unfortunately, because Altaria does actually tank them pretty decently, but still, definitely going to chunk this Altaria down. Gets a shield there and then swaps out into Mirror Altaria. Does a shield up, sort of thinking that this may be a Moonblast. Oh, actually a Dazzling Gleam, so not the Community Day Moonblast. Still pretty scary for Altaria though, and I got the shield regardless. So in comes the Greedent, which is a pretty interesting swap. I suppose Captain Shook swapped out of their matchup because they didn't want Altaria to just farm all the way down. But as we sort of mentioned before, Greedent is not loving the Altaria matchup because Altaria just packs on so much constant hurt, whereas Greedent's charge moves just don't do as much damage. So we'll see if they're just going to go for the Body Slam here, which Altaria can tank another one. Crunch is going to hurt a little bit more, but Body Slam actually going to burn the shield here. Is this the Body Slam? Just wants to keep a little bit healthier and then swapping out into the Hakamo'o. Obviously, we've got the Brick Break here. We've seen how tanky this Hakamo'o is, so we'll be able to tank this move no matter what. Body Slam, easy peasy. Going to farm up one more Dragon Claw and then throw this Brick Break through, which I think probably KOs here. Yeah, down goes the Greedent. In comes the Escavalier in the back. So again, going to be going straight for these Brick Breaks because Escavalier also gets to his charge moves relatively quickly. So you kind of want to get that damage off when you can. Does, again, Dragon Claw's really adding up there. Potentially, I'm not sure if they were trying to catch a move there, but Altaria is still able to Dragon Breath down. Mew coming in to get that one Shadow Claw down. And at this point, Mew is going to get taken down by a Mega Horn, but Altaria is just waiting in the back again with all of this energy. And this Sky Attack, Escavalier is not going to like it one bit because it is such a squishy Pokemon. Down goes Escavalier, and down goes Captain Shook in in game 3 of round 2. We are now going on to round 3. Who's going to be up against Australian champion Rick Flareon, one of the best battlers in the country, no doubt, winning the first ever regionals in Australia in the Play Pokemon circuit last year in Melbourne. And yeah, definitely a really powerful battler and excited to see these battles unfold. So we've got Escavalier, Greedent, Mew, Defense Deoxys, Shadow Dragonair, and Shadow Celio. So we've definitely got a little bit of spice going on from Rick Flareon here. And Defense Deoxys coming back out. Defense Deoxys is sort of striking me as weird because when the meta first developed, there was a lot of Defense Deoxys. I think because people wanted the counter user, they realized how bulky it was, has play up against the Ice types and the Flyers. I sort of slept on it at first, but it seems like Defense Deoxys usage is kind of going down as we go, just because it's still it's a bit too weak to Greedent, which is kind of what you want that counter damage for. I mean, obviously Escavalier does a little bit better in that department, getting that counter damage through, and then also still taking a lot of damage from Mew without being able to do anything super effective back. But still, Defense Deoxys is definitely a pretty powerful Pokemon, and Dragonair being the sort of really spice pick here, and I really hope that Rick Flareon does decide to bring it, and almost forced to bring Shadow Celio, because of that double dragon, having two dragons on the team, which is quite rare at this stage, I'd say. But regardless, we'll jump into game 1 of round 3 here up against, I know I'm rooting for him, back Aussie representation, but we know who wins here. It's in the title. Now we've got Galvantula into Defense Deoxys in the lead. Lunge definitely going to do a lot of damage here, but Defense Deoxys able to outpace to the move, getting that Psycho Boost off. He's going to do a fair bit of damage there, and now going to get the Lunge onto the Greedent. Obviously, would prefer to get that big super effective damage onto the Deoxys, but nice to get the debuff and not so much the debuff that's important, but it's putting that early damage onto the Greedent that's really big for the mirror match, because they're now both locked in here, and flyingpizza1 is just easily going to be able to outpace, even with the difference between the tackle on flyingpizza's side and the bullet seed over on Rick Flareon's. Again, the bullet seed getting more energy rather than doing more damage like tackle does. Now, I've got another charge move coming through here. He's going to be going for that Body Slam, just trying to whittle down flyingpizza's Greedent as much as possible. Flying Pizza just shoots that energy to the moon, and then finally throwing a Body Slam here. Doesn't want to get hit by another charge move, but here comes the Deoxys. Kind of wanted to get up to 2 crunches, but was a little worried wasn't going to get there. So goes to the first body slam, try to get a shield, but did not shield and wasn't able to get that crunch off, which is really unfortunate for Flying Pizza. Still able to bring in the Mew here, going to be able to tank one move, whatever it is, from Ric Flareon, and we now know that the moveset is Rock Slide, Psycho Boost, so no Thunderbolt in sight. We've got the swap out into Wall Rain. Has to be scared of those wild charges, so trying to get a shield with the Dragon Claw and is successfully able to do that. Still got 2 shields on Flying Pizza's side, so going to burn the first one here, and then that wild charge is just kind of going, ooh, here we go. We're going to do a ton of damage here, and bada bing, bada yowcha, the Shadow Celio is gone, and still able to swap into the Galvantula here. We know that Defense Deoxys can get to those Psycho Boosts really quick, but needs to get energy so it can throw up against that Mew in the back as well, but it's going to be GG's here, and yeah, I think just admitted defeat there and let it go. But game 1 going to Flying Pizza, and now going into game 2 with the Altaria lead, Mew and Galvantula in the back. I've said it once, I've said it twice, I've potentially even said it thrice. Altaria is in a good spot up against Greedent, even though I think that if you're the Greedent, you kind of want to try and get a crunch debuff. Just to try and soften it up a little bit, because then the body slams actually do a pretty nice chunk of damage. But regardless, we see the Dragonair coming out to try and do some big Dragon Breath damage with the Shadow bonus to the Altaria. But instead, we have a swap out from Flying Pizza into the Mew. Those body slams really do add up, because Dragonair's attack stat is pretty good. It's a really good neutralist, as are all dragons, quite frankly. Now, that Dragon Claw just does so much damage, though. Dragonair, already not the bulkiest Pokemon, but throw on that 20% bonus damage that it gets for being a Shadow Pokemon. It ain't it. It's not great. But now, Mew going straight for the Wild Charge to do some big damage onto that Greedent, expecting them not to shield the first one. And now, just going to let Mew go. I feel like this is went for the Body Slam as well, but unfortunately it's still enough, and Mew is going to go down there after the Wild Charge debuff. And we'll see some double swapping here, and now we are locked in with a Galvantula into a Celio. Gonna go for the lunge to try and get this shield out of the Celio. Gets the shield, and of course debuffs the attack stat as well. Flying Pizza just cheering, going home, going, yes, yeah. But now he's going to be able to do a ton of damage to this Galvantula, potentially because the debuff may be able to survive this body slam. Yeah, does survive. Going to farm all the way to... not quite able to, actually. Not that it's not too bad for Flying Pizza here, because they're still just going to be able to let that go, bring an Altaria to take down Celio, and then we'll actually be able to get up to this Sky Attack. Green's going to get one move off here, even a crunch, not going to do enough damage. Actually, body slam is like... I think it does like 1 digit more damage, 1 more HP. But actually able to get another one off, which is pretty scary. Oh my gosh, Flying Pizza taking it out. Ric Flair. Oh my gosh. You know what? I'll be honest. I thought it was game 3. I thought we knew that Flying Pizza was going to win, but now it's game 3. And we've got 1-1. Ric Flair making some really solid plays to take it out there at the end with the double body slam. No crunch debuff necessary. Now into game 3, we've got the swap out, and we now have Galvantula into the Greedent, going for the lunge to debuff the attack there before swapping into the Greedent. Again, really nice play to try and just get some damage onto the opposing Greedent, just because it really does help to make sure you're able to win this matchup and run away with a bit of energy to throw onto whatever Pokemon comes out in the back as well. The crunch debuff's always nice to try and get in a pinch, and the body slam's just adding up to do a ton of damage. Now, farmed up a ton of energy, and before Ric Flareon is able to get to another charge move, goes to the body slam here just to bring that Greedent right to its knees, and almost another charge move, but not quite. So farms up past the crunch before a Celio throws a move, goes to the body slam, which will do a chunk of change, brings it down into the red. At this point, our Flying Pizza potentially could have shielded and farmed down, but opts to just let that come through. Gonna do a little bit of damage, not quite able to get to a charge move, which I feel like was their intention, but instead now going to be throwing the lunge up against the Dragonair that is swapped in. Gets the first shield from Ric Flareon, and now in a little bit of a pinch, because Ric Flareon knows his counts as well, knew that he needed to throw the move here to make sure Galvantula couldn't get another one. Flying Pizza needing to burn that shield to make sure they can get this lunge off. which again does a ton of damage here. So going to get that last shield out of Dragonair. Double debuffed now, and Mew going to come in. We know how much damage a Dragon Claw is going to do, but Dragonair is able to get a charge move off first. Body Slam going to weaken down this Mew, but double debuffed, remember, so doesn't even bring it down to half health. This Dragon Claw definitely going to just one-hit KO that Dragonair out of here, and a couple more I think this might potentially take out the Mew, maybe? No, it isn't. Well, but regardless, Flying Pizza able to take out that game against Rick Flareon. I mean, I was so silly that I just assumed that the writing was on the wall in Game 2 there. Much apologies to Rick Flareon. Love you, mate. Hope to see you soon. And now going in to round 4 up against one of the other champions. And I am very sorry to see I was a beast, 757 here, because it feels like video after video I'm just showing him get beaten. I'm so sorry. It just is what it is. CEO is a beast. Fantastic battler. Ends up going 4-1 in this tournament as well, which is a fantastic result. Has a really high win rate as well. So yeah, obviously really strong battler, but unfortunately is going to be up against Flying Pizza 1 here. Now, CEO is a beast is running Altaria, Bronzong, Mew, Greedent, Defense Deoxys, and Trash Wormadam. Again, sort of exemplifying the fact that there is a lot of variety sort of going on. I mean, I say a lot of variety. We've seen all but one of these picks before being the Bronzong, but just that you're sort of able to have these like sort of wiggle rooms here. It just, I like the variety that I'm seeing a lot more than I liked looking at Ember stuff. I mean, obviously, sorry, factions guys, we've still got another 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 bouts left to go where 2 people are going to have to play Ember a week. But regardless, I really do. I'm loving Naiad at the moment, quite frankly. So we've got CEO as a beast. Now, Bronzong, going to be a little bit of a problem for the Dragons, a little bit. It's not the end of the world, really, because it's not like Bronzong is doing big, super effective damage to either Hakamo. Oh, wait, that's a lie. Hakamo has the fighting typing, so actually really scary for Hakamo. But Altaria doesn't care as much, and I feel like in this meta, most Bronzongs are running Payback, but there is always the potential that they may be running Bulldoze. They're not, though. It's going to be... Oh, I mean, maybe Psyshock Payback, I feel like is probably the moveset that most people are going for. Not much of a reason to run Heavy Slam either, but regardless, let's jump into round 4 here and take a look at these battles up against CEO, who again, really incredible battler. We've got the Mew exactly where it wants to be up against the Bronzong. These Shadow Claws are seriously going to add up, or the Confusions are just doing resisted damage and not a whole lot of it. Again, have to be a little bit fearful of the payback that can come from the Bronzong. Going to go for that Wild Charge. Does a ton of damage there and now sort of forced to shield just out of fear to make sure that Flying Pizza is going to be able to farm down. But no, it was actually the Psyshock bait. Keeping the question mark there about do they actually have payback? Probably. But regardless, in comes Altaria. A little bit unfortunate for Mew going for the Wild Charge. Dragon Claw would have been nice to get that super effective damage through, but doesn't matter too much because it's sort of weakened up Altaria enough that Greedent's actually going to have a pretty decent time here. Body Slams are going to add up a little bit. 2 Body Slams, all we're going to need here, plus those tackles. Actually, I feel like you can just no shield and then tackle all the way down, and then have a nice chunk of energy onto whatever comes in. It could be the... Oh, no, we're going to see a swap into Greedent here. Just going to go for the Body Slam. Wants to do maximum damage rather than trying for Crunch debuff. But we're going to keep going. Go for another charge move here. Was maybe going up for the Crunch that time. But regardless, just going to let Greedent go here. And then bring in that Altaria, who now it's sort of on the other foot. When Flying Pizza's Greedent was out, Altaria was down at half health. Now CEO is a beast. Greedent was down at half health, so really bad for them. But there are still 2 shields up on CEO as a beast side. So Flying Pizza swapping into Mew to try and get those shields out. First Dragon Claw gets the shield there. We know that Bronzong is on barely any HP in the back with not a whole lot in the energy department either. No shielding and able to get to the Dragon Claw. Oh my gosh. Able to get the clutch Dragon Claw with 1 HP and a dream. Getting that last shield out of Greedent here. We know that Bronzong is lurking around and we know that Altaria can absolutely tank this charge move from the Greedent. Really expecting that swap out at any time. So it's Flying Pizza, keeping calm, not just panicking and hitting the button and letting that Bronzong get taken down. Shield off the Body Slam because you've got nothing else to shield. And now this Sky Attack going to seal the deal and take game 1 up against CEO as a beast with just clutch 1 HP and a Dreamage right there. Now, game 2. Again, another brilliant lead. Mew into the defense Deoxys. Seal is a beast. Really not expecting Mew to come out for a second time in a row. But now going to be able to get a super effective Dragon Claw off onto this Altaria. Bring it down to about half health before swapping into the Hakamo-O. Has to shield here, but then should be able to Dragon Tail all the way down and have a nice chunk of change in energy ready to throw onto whatever comes in the back. I feel like Deoxys wouldn't be a bad pick here because, you know, again, you're not doing anything super effective to defense Deoxys, and it's quite bulky as well. So these Dragon Claws will slowly add up alongside the Dragon Tails, but it's not like the end of the world here. Deoxys can definitely sort of soak all of this up and try and regain a little bit of momentum. But regardless, those counters also kind of adding up on Hakamo-O. Going to go for the charge move to take it out is the Rock Slide. So we've seen one move from this Deoxys. And here actually comes the Bug Bite Wormadam again. Flying Pizza now knows that Wormadam can learn Bug Bite, so isn't as surprised here, but goes for the Wild Charge, gets a shield, and then swaps that into Altaria. Again, Altaria, a Pokemon that does pretty good up against trash Wormadam. So takes the Iron Head there. And then just going to keep farm. Would be able to take some more as well, but now just before the charge move comes through, going to go for the Sky Attack to weaken this thing down. Actually gets that last shield out. This is going to be a pretty tight one, actually. So going to put on the shield here on the charge move. Altaria almost has another Sky Attack. Does probably want to land it on this Wormadam as opposed to trying to save it up and do something funky. So Sky Attack coming through, does not take out the trash Wormadam. Going to see a swap into Defense Deoxys, who does have the Rock Slide, tries to make the catch potentially, but no catch onto the Mew, but is going to, after one more counter, throw the move anyway because, I mean, Deoxys, not a lot of health left, so sort of needs to. One Shadow Claw away from the Dragon Claw, but Wormadam does not let it get there, but Dragon Breaths come through, and Altaria able to seal the deal there, barely. Nick of time up against CEO is a beast, but regardless, with the 2-0, we're going into game 3 now with Altaria into the Mew, and we've got that Greedent just, oh my gosh, swapping into the Greedent. Not as good a matchup for Greedent as it would with Bullet Seed, because you're not doing much with the tackles, but the crunches are where your real damage is coming out from. But a lot of damage is being put onto this Greedent, so maybe not as clean of a matchup as I thought it was going to be. We'll see if we get the defense debuff, although I don't think it matters at all particularly. But we are actually able to get the clutch second crunch off just before being confusion down, of course, because everything just, oh my, ridiculously clutch. And Mew's Shadow Claws barely doing any damage, resisted damage to such a bulky Pokemon, lets a little bit more tackle damage come through. Does mean that Mew gets a little bit more energy, but now CMPing with the Sky Attack, a little bit unfortunate there. But Dragon Claw going to come through. Ideal world, you would have been able to farm up in a little bit more energy with the Dragon Breaths and then go for the Sky Attack. But regardless, gets the Sky Attack there and a couple more Dragon Breaths going through. He gains Altaria, which is a little bit of a scary spot. Has to go for the Sky Attack here. Would have been nice to try and sneak the Moonblast through, but they don't know, or they just decide that shielding up Altaria was well enough worthwhile. But anyway, that opens up the door for Mew to come in, get these super effective Dragon Claws through. Not going to be a KO, but will now be able to burn a shield and Shadow Claw down if Flying Pizza desires. And it looks like that is the way we're going to go. Going to see a full Dragon Claw. Oh no, we're going to see a Sky Attack come through just before. I think that Mew can take this though. Yeah, Mew can take it. Shadow Claw down. It did not hit the move. It looked like they maybe tried to, but regardless, Wild Charge going to come through, take it out, and that is going to be GG's on round 4 with Flying Pizza now running off with a 4-0 going into the final round, round 5, up against Golden Boy Ivory. Got the drip to match the name as well, but we've got the Altaria, Walrein, Bronzong, Escavalier, Galvantula, and Greedent. So again, bringing that Bronzong and the Walrein to provide a fair bit of fear towards Flying Pizza's strategy. So we'll see if they adjust it all. If they do end up bringing that ABB line again, where Hakamo-O is able to sort of bait out the Pokemon. I have just realized that I didn't turn the lights on, so I've been recording this. I mean, it's not really in the dark. Like, I've got some natural lighting going on, so I guess we'll just keep it going. Hopefully, it hasn't been like so awful to see a lack of one-sided lighting as per usual. But anyway, we've got round 5 going in up against Golden Boy Ivory for the big W in the tournament. Can Flying Pizza take it all away? Don't read the title. Forget the title. We've got Greedent coming into Greedent again. We've seen this one before, and we've seen this exact play before. Swap out into the Hakamo'o. We've got the ABB. Swap out into the Hakamo'o. Draw out the Walrein if it is hanging around, or the Bronzong also acting as that counter. Just bring out the sort of dragon counter, and now just try and unleash. You'll eventually go down, bring the Greedent in to finish it off, and then have Altaria just ready to close in the back. So here comes the Brick Break. Not going to do a ton of damage, but he's just going to slowly whittle that Bronzong down so that now all that Greedent needs to do is to land one crunch. Potentially, actually, we'll just be able to go for a Body Slam plus fast moves to take Bronzong down, save one fast move of energy. But regardless, the payback comes through, does do a fair amount, and it looks like Flying Pizza is indeed going for the Body Slam. A normal damage to take out the Steel type, actually gets the shield out of Golden Boy Ivory. Wants to take this thing down, but Flying Pizza is not going to let that happen. Burning the shield for another payback, and going to tackle down the Bronzong. We'll see what comes in here. Dun dun dun. Okay, we're actually going to see the Escavalier come out, which is not great for Greedent. But Altaria doesn't mind too much. So going to try and get the defense debuff on the Escavalier. Gets the defense debuff before swapping out into Altaria. Golden Boy Ivory can just do nothing of any significance to the Altaria here. But Flying Pizza is going to shield up the Megahorn. Really wants to stay healthy. When Altaria is sort of the last man on the field to try and take this all out. Wants to keep as much health as possible. That Greedent has some charge moves ready to go, but we've seen how well Altaria is able to tank them. I think Golden Boy Ivory needs to go for the crunch debuff, and they're going for it, and they do not get the debuff, which just sort of seals the deal that Golden Boy Ivory is not going to be able to take this one out, unfortunately. There's another crunch and another non-debuff, even going for the Moonblast here, just to try and absolutely wreck away this Greedent. Down it goes, and then there's a little bit of health left on that Escavalier, but it's not going to be able to take this out. That is GG's on game one with that ABB strategy. Dragon in the back. Bringing in the Walrein now after that double dragon to try and hard counter, but Flying Pizza able to make the read and brings in Galvantula in the lead, which is absolutely fantastic there. Burns the shield on the Icicle Spear. Going to farm up a little bit more energy and now going for the lunge. I think there might have been a swap out there, but I didn't see what it was into. It was not a swap out. Walrein is still hanging around and it got that attack debuff now. Going for a second lunge, which I think will be enough to take this Walrein out if it goes through. Does not go through, but still the attack debuff comes through. And at this point, I think Galvantula will actually be able to tank this Icicle Spear, and now we'll just be able to farm down. But no, we've got a Scavalier coming out, going to farm up to the charge move, and actually just going to go straight for it this time, as opposed to keeping that charge move for later. Brings down that Escavalier right down, plus the attack stat. Interesting play bringing in the Mew, because obviously you're very scared of the Megahorn, but decides that the energy on Mew is going to be all important up against that Walrein that is still hanging around. Unfortunately, we see another charge move come through from this Escavalier, and it is the Drill Run. Sigh of relief, did not have enough energy for the Megahorn, but now a ton of energy here. Able to go for the Dragon Claw up against this Walrein. Walrein getting pretty low here. Is enough to KO the Walrein, and we have Bronzong in the back going for the Wild Charge. This is going to be enough to bring it down to about half-ish health, and then Altaria will actually be able to seal the deal, but get some super effective Shadow Claws and another Wild Charge just for good measure to really just bring it home that Flying Pizza 1 is the champion of the Naiad Cup tournament with the 5-0, but going in for that game 3 just to see how much they can do with no dragons this time. Dragons have carried Flying Pizza so far with this tournament, but for the very final game, going to leave them all at home. Walrein, scary. Bronzong, scary. Altaria, a little bit scary as well, so we'll see how he goes without them. Going for the Dragon Claw to try and bring this Altaria down into the red. Do actually see that come through. At this point, another Sky Attack will be able to come through from this Altaria, but Flying Pizza, happy to let it go. Get a little bit of energy on something else in the back. Actually, stays around for another little bit of a Dragon Breath Wombo, but Greedent comes in and going to tackle down that Flying Dragon. In comes the Escavalier, though, and this is looking pretty dire for Flying Pizza, actually. Without a Pokemon that can really properly soak up this damage, and still 2 shields to burn through. So there's the first one. Flying Pizza really trying to get to this Body Slam as soon as possible. Look how much the counters are adding up. Just going to have to let this Drill Run come through onto Greedent. Swapping into the Galvantula now is presumably just going to be going straight for lunges, trying to make the hurting stop. But this is not looking great. Shielding up the Drill Run, farming up a little bit more energy, going for the lunge now, catching air quotes, the lunge onto Bronzong, because Bronzong is still going to take super effective damage. Oh no, steel typing. Attack down, coming down from the get-go though, and now going for the second lunge, gets that last shield out, but now, oh man, Galvantula's getting really low. These confusions are seriously hurting. Gonna shield up the move here. Now it needs to have a charge move to throw with this Bronzong and one to throw in the back as well. Would have been taken down by the Bronzong, so going for the lunge here and hoping that Flying Pizza may be able to get to another charge move in the back. Swaps into Greeton to try and tank a charge move there, but unfortunately just barely short of getting that last lunge off that would have sealed the deal. But it doesn't matter because Flying Pizza has got the 5-0 in the Naiad Cup tournament, and some really nice plays there as well. Hakamo'o really showing itself as a strong Pokemon that's got a lot more bulk than I ever thought it would, taking Icicle Spears like a champ and taking a lot of stuff as well. Really just sort of acting as the sort of, hey, look at me over here, to distract from Altaria, so that Altaria might be able to just power through in the end, with another Pokemon like either Greedent or Mew, Galvantula, acting as that sort of Pokemon that takes down cleans up the mess, with Greedent sort of being that main one. Because it's got that bulk, because the counters to the dragons aren't really dominating Mew either. I mean, like, by using Hakamo'o as this sort of sacrificial lamb, it even means things like Defense Deoxys, who have Rock Slide for the Altaria, isn't able to do as big damage there as if you used Altaria as the sort of sacrificial swap, where Defense Deoxys pretty much acts as a counter. So you're sort of like, it works really well. And Greedent really just rounds out that trio. I mean, people have been saying from the get-go, the Greedent Altaria combo is definitely a really strong one. And it's hard to break through with sort of that much bulk that's lying around and that much coverage, without much in the way of hard counters. Well, certainly not to Greedent, a little bit more for the Altaria. But as sort of said earlier, from Flying Pizza, most teams have only got that one ice type. So Double Dragon really able to power through here. And so I really want to say a thank you to Flying Pizza 1 for sharing this footage and for jumping in for the tournament. But as I said, Flying Pizza is like brand new to the Silph Arena, like very fresh in the game and already just dominating, like getting so much of this strategy through, understanding of the show 6, bring 3 format, and really just bringing the fact that strategy is important if you want to be, number 3 in the world, number 1 in the US. And it's sort of like, as opposed to just the strategy that I feel like most people go for, myself probably included, where you just bring a team of 6 and then just try and pick a balanced line of 3 up against the opponent's balanced line of 3. You sort of end up, in a lot of cases, sort of just trying to go for a 50-50, coin flip, who sort of peaks the team better, which, like, there's certainly a strategy in picking your line of 3 based on the opponent's team of 6. But having a strategy that you can sort of fall back on, having safe swaps, having Pokemon to use as bait, just always works a lot better in the Silph Arena. Flying Pizza has just instantly clicked on to those strategies being absolutely key for strong performance in the Silph Arena. And I'm really looking forward to Flying Pizza potentially. I mean, I feel like they've already got a chance to just power through, keep going on for the rest of the Silph Arena season, and then straight into Continentals as well. But with all of that said, thank you again to Flying Pizza 1 for jumping into this tournament and sharing it all with us. Revealing your strategy that is, I guess you've already used up most of your 40 rounds in the wave. You've still got a little bit left, but there's not too much left to go. But yeah, really appreciate the share. And of course, if you want to jump in for future tournaments on my Discord link down in the doobly-doo, if you want to come in and join for probably next month's will be the next one. But with that said, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, especially that subscribe one. Thank you to my patrons and YouTube members as well. Get out of the way, Steve. Shoot. I can't. There we go. Just right out of the way. No, I'll come back. Hey guys. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. And I'll see you in the next one. I'm not sure what the next one's going to be. It might be Hoenn Cup Meta Simplified, actually. Either that or we managed to get to like the point where the next 2 waves metas are released. But yeah, thanks everyone, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.